The message that ended my marriage came from a woman I had never met. It was late on a Friday night, and it started with 4 words: "You don't know me." She was right. I did not know her, but she knew my wife. And by the end of that night, I knew everything. People talk about karma all the time, and I never paid much attention to it. It took karma 3 months to find my wife, and I am going to walk you through all 3 of them. Let me start where it started, because it did not start with that message. It started 6 years earlier. I am 39. My wife and I were married for 13 years, and we have a daughter who is 10. We were the kind of couple people did not worry about. We had a house. We had the same group of families we saw every weekend at our daughter's games. And we had a guy in that group I am going to call the friend, because I refuse to use his name. 6 years ago, at a birthday party for one of the league kids, the friend got my wife alone by the coolers and told her that if he had met her first, things would be different. She told me about it that same night, in the car, before we were even out of the neighborhood. I remember being proud of her. We agreed she would keep her distance, and I shook the man's hand at every game for 6 more years, because the kids were friends and the families were friends. She handled it right that time. For about 5 years, as far as I know, she kept that promise. We would see him at the games and at birthday parties because our kids ran in the same circle. They would say hello. I never saw anything. Life went on. Then, about a year before the end, it started again. I did not know it at the time. I found out the whole timeline later from screenshots, and I am going to tell it to you the way I learned it. It started with normal conversations on an app I did not even know she had on her phone. Checking in. How is life? How is your knee? Did you see the game? She did not delete those early ones, and I think that is because, at the beginning, she had convinced herself it was innocent. A couple months in, the messages changed. They got flirty, and the ones after that, she deleted. She deleted the calls too. There were calls on her drive home, 2 and 3 a week, and she scrubbed every one of them off that phone while I was making dinner for our daughter inside the house she drove home to. There was no hotel, not for a while. What was actually happening was worse, because I could not have caught it with a camera. She was telling him everything about us. When she had a bad week, he heard about it. When she and I argued, he got the play-by-play, and I found out later she made our arguments sound worse than they were, because the worse I looked, the more support she got. She literally typed it to him once. If I make it sound bad, you check on me more. My wife was talking me down to another man to keep his attention coming, while I was home thinking we were just in a rough patch. Yeah, that one took me a while. The physical part started after the league banquet in the spring, the one I stayed home from because our daughter had a fever. There are pictures from after that night that I am not going to describe. And from there, it went exactly where you think it went. Not a hotel, his car. After the away games and the late practices, parked around the corner from my own house, close enough that if I had walked the dog 1 block further, I would have seen the tail lights. Now, here is the detail that still gets me, and this is the one our whole circle went crazy over when it all came out. He asked my permission. At the start of the season, the league needed 2 team parents to handle the schedule and the gear, and he raised his hand, and then he looked over at me on the sideline and asked if I minded him signing my wife up as a second, since she was so organized. And I said yes. I told him, take her. She runs this family like a company. Every week after that, the 2 of them had a reason to text, a reason to call, a reason to be the last 2 cars in the parking lot after practice. I built their alibi for them in front of 40 people, and the man thanked me for it, and I said, anytime. None of it was an accident. They built it, and they used my blessing to do it. She would tell me later that she felt guilt the whole time, that she did not even enjoy it, that she felt sick after every time, and there were 5 times, and she kept the count the same way I am keeping it now, like a small number was supposed to help me. It did not help me. She made that choice 5 separate times, and the whole time, this man had a girlfriend. The girlfriend is the reason you are hearing this story at all. My wife knew about her. She asked him once how he could say the things he said to her and then go home to another woman, and he told her, "You were never on the table, and she keeps my actual life running." He told her straight out that the girlfriend was his life, and she was his break from it, and my wife heard that, and she stayed. He also told her more than once, "Whatever happens, I will never be a problem for you too." He said that in the same months, he was parking his car around the corner from my house. So, that is what was happening in my life for about a year, while I knew none of it. Now, the Friday night, my wife was asleep. I was up watching a game replay, and my phone lights up with a message request from a name I did not know. "You don't know me, but my boyfriend and your wife have been having an affair, and I have everything, and you deserve to see it." I did not answer for about 10 minutes. I remember thinking that if I typed anything back, it became real. Then I typed, "Show me," and she did. This woman had gotten suspicious a month earlier, and she had done what suspicious people do, and what she found, she saved. Screenshots of the flirting, screenshots of my wife telling him about our fights, the picture, the thread where they planned which practices would they say would be late, planning around me. She had dates. She had the deleted calls because they were on his phone, and she went through his phone and she found everything. It took her 40 minutes to send it all, and I sat there and looked at every single one. She told me why she sent it too, because I asked her. She said she had been sitting on all of it for over a week, trying to decide, and what made the decision for her was one screenshot where my wife mentioned our daughter's game schedule, working out which Saturdays were safe. She said, "He has a kid in this. He deserves to know what they were doing with that." The stranger cared more about my daughter being dragged into it than my own wife did. She apologized to me at the end of it. I did not wake my wife up. I want to tell you what I did instead. I saved everything to 2 places. I forwarded it all to an email she had no access to. In the morning, after our daughter left for school, I set my phone next to her sink while she was doing her hair, with one screenshot open, the one where she made fun of how I load a dishwasher, to him, with a heart on his reply. Small one, right. Out of everything, I picked that one on purpose because I wanted to watch her face try to figure out how much I knew, and I got to see it. The face. Every man who has been through this knows the face. The first thing on her face was not guilt. It was math. She was working out what the minimum was, and then she gave me the minimum. We only text sometimes. It was stupid. It is not physical. I let her finish, and then I told her the girlfriend sent me everything, and I watched her start over. Even then, with everything on the table, she gave it to me in pieces. That day, we only kissed once. 2 days later, it was, okay, things happened in his car, but only twice. By the weekend, it was 3 times, and she swore on her mother that 3 was all of it. The real number was 4. I already knew the real number, and I let her spend the whole week getting there on her own, lie by lie, because every time she trimmed the truth, she was answering my real question, which was whether there was anything left here to save. There was not. She only ever admitted to the things I could prove, and that told me everything about how sorry she was. And I will tell you the exact moment I stopped listening. It was not a number. It was a question. In the middle of the second conversation, mid-apology, she stopped and asked me, "Who else knows?" Not, "How do I fix this?" Not, "What about our daughter?" Who else knows? She was managing the damage before she was even done confessing, and once she asked that, I knew exactly where I stood. She called in sick the next day and sent me paragraphs while I was at work. long ones, the kind with no beginning and no end, about anxiety and feeling unseen, and how the support at home had stopped somewhere along the way, and she went looking for it without meaning to. I want to be fair. Some of what she wrote about our marriage was probably true. Marriages get stale sometimes. Mine had gotten tired too, and I never parked around the corner from anybody's house and cheated on my wife. I filed that month. No screaming, no plates thrown, none of what she kept bracing for. I think the calm scared her more than anger would have, because anger is a thing you can hold on to and feel wronged by, and I did not hand her any. We told our daughter together that we could not be married anymore and that none of it was her fault. That conversation was the only time in this whole thing that I broke down, and it was in the garage, alone, after, and it lasted about 4 minutes, and then I was done. The divorce itself was quick because I had a folder and she had a lawyer who had seen the folder. One meeting, her lawyer started the morning talking about her contributions to the household, and my lawyer gave her lawyer a folder, and they took a break. And after the break, her side had one goal, which was speed. I watched my wife stare at the middle of the conference table for most of an hour, while two strangers divided up everything we had. We sold nothing. I bought out her half of the house. She took her car and her half of the savings. We split time with our daughter on paper the standard way. I did not go after her in the settlement, and people in my life thought I was soft for that. I was not being soft. I just knew something they did not. I had been through every one of those messages, and I knew what she had traded everything for, and I knew what was coming to her. She moved into an apartment 15 minutes away, and I know through the group what she was thinking, because she told one of the wives. She thought the hard part was over. She thought that in a few months, once the dust settled, she and the friend would finally get to be a real thing, out in the open. That was the plan she blew up a family for. Month 1, she was alone in an apartment for the first time in her adult life, and she told one of the wives that the apartment gets lonely at night in a way the house never did. And one of the wives told me, because by then, the wives were telling me everything. She asked the group to keep inviting her to things. The invitations did not come. Nobody was mean to her. Nobody said anything at all. People just stopped calling and stopped saving her a seat. And that was the whole punishment. And it was worse than yelling. And the friend became missing from her side as well. He was dealing with his own fallout because, remember, the girlfriend who messaged me had left him the same week, loudly, and our whole circle of families knew every detail by then. My wife thought they were both free now. She was the only one of the two of them who had wanted to be free. He had told her the truth the whole time, the one time he was ever honest. You were never on the table. She thought he would change his mind. He had said it to her face, and she had decided he did not mean it. Month 2, the sideline. Our daughter had her fall season, and my ex-wife came to the games because she is still her mother and she should. But the sideline talks, and the girlfriend had burned her in front of all of it. Nobody moved their chair next to hers anymore. The women she had stood with for 6 years of Saturdays stood somewhere else. People in the group started saying the word karma out loud, and I never once had to say it myself. The wives took my side, and honestly, the husbands took it harder than the wives, because every one of those men had waved at somebody from a driveway. She stood alone at the fence with a coffee, and I want to tell you I felt nothing. But the truth is, I felt something worse than nothing. I felt done. My daughter noticed. Kids always notice. She asked me one Saturday on the ride home why Mom stands by herself at the games now, and I kept my eyes on the road and told her that grown-up friendships change sometimes, and that her mom loves her, and that she could sit with either one of us at any game, always. That is all I said. It would have been easy to hand a 10-year-old my side of the story, and I am telling you, it took everything I had not to, and I did not. Whatever her mother broke, my daughter was not going to carry it. I made that rule the first night, and I have never once broken it. She looked over at me once, at the person she used to complain about to a man in a parked car, and I was fine, and she could see that I was fine, and I think that hurt her more than anything I could have said. Month 3, Karma showed up. First week of month 3, the friend blocked her. She had sent him something about getting coffee now that things had calmed down, and instead of answering, he blocked her everywhere. She found out why 9 days later, the same way the whole group found out, because his new relationship went public in the group chat that plans the end of season party. It was the girlfriend, the same girlfriend, the one who sent me everything. They had gotten back together and he had proposed, and there was a picture, her hand, the ring, his caption about second chances, and finally becoming the man somebody deserved. Somebody in the group chat replied with one single clapping emoji, and I promise you, every parent on that sideline understood exactly what that clap was for. It was not for him. He kept the woman. My wife was the affair. She torched her marriage, her name on that sideline, and her daughter's family to be a married man's proof to himself that he still had it. And the moment it got expensive, he went home and bought a ring for the woman he actually lived for. And 8 days after that ring picture, my phone buzzed with a number I had not blocked, because 3 months out, I had honestly stopped thinking about her enough to block anything. 4 paragraphs. I will not read you the whole thing, but I will tell you the shape of it. She said she finally understood what she had thrown away. She said watching me move on and be okay was the hardest part. She said she knew she had no right, but she wondered if we could maybe have lunch and talk about things, because she felt like she was drowning, and I was the only person who ever really knew her. I went through that message twice. My daughter was at the table doing homework, and dinner was in the oven, and the house was quiet, and I had gotten to like it that way. And I realized the message did not require anything from me at all. It was not a question. It was just karma. 3 months late, in 4 paragraphs, the friend was engaged. The sideline was gone. Her apartment was quiet and lonely. Everything she left our marriage to go get was gone. The man, the group, all of it, and she could see it all happening and could not touch any of it. I did not answer. I did not block her either. I put the phone down and I checked the oven, and I asked my daughter if she wanted garlic bread, and she said yes. That was my whole night, and honestly, that was the whole revenge. Dinner with my kid. People message me now and ask if I ever got my payback, and I tell them I did not lift a finger, and they do not believe me. But that is the thing about karma that nobody tells you when you are lying awake at 4 in the morning planning speeches you will never give. You do not have to do anything. I left and karma handled the rest, and it took about 3 months. She still stands at the fence alone. He is married now. The girlfriend, of all people, sends me a happy birthday message every year, and every year I answer it, because she is the only person in this whole story who just told me the truth. And my daughter wants to play travel ball next season, which means more Saturdays, more sidelines, more of the quiet life I ended up with. I will take it. All right, I blame OP for some of this. Why would you let your wife hang out with another man when it's already a problem? His wife basically gave him a red flag, which was her. Men, stop overlooking red flags. Now, I'm going to give OP a little bit of credit because he did not simp at the end. He filed for divorce promptly and went on about his business. But in the beginning, his brain must have been misfiring because his wife told him everything he needed to know to get out of that marriage earlier. But in the end, it worked out for him. Men, stop overlooking red flags. Until next time.